The story begins 3 days before Christmas, where a group of 4 people are shown. This woman is named Maisie, the long-haired man is named Doug. Juby is the leader of this group, and Grant, who has a hulking body. They were seen approaching a house. Then, as soon as the door was opened, one of them immediately stabbed the neck of the owner of the house. Then they entered and caught the wife. They immediately put the woman on the table. Then Jude immediately stabbed her stomach to death. Meanwhile, Maisie drew a symbol on the glass using the woman's blood. Then the scene moves to a girl named Clara, who has just woken up. Outside the window, Clara sees a girl named Samantha, who is doing morning exercises in the dormitory courtyard. Samantha briefly looks back at Clara, and then she back to exercise again. It is known that Clara and Samantha are students at an all-girls school called Blackfield. Then the scene switches to a teacher named Rose who is telling the history of a big fire that once happened, where the fire was thought to have been started by a witch. While the teacher was explaining, Samantha glanced at the scar on Clara's arm. A moment later, Rose asks Samantha about the existence of a witch. With some surprise, Samantha replied that she didn't believe in witches, but she does believe in scapegoats or people who are accused, because she thinks there should be someone to blame for the incident. Maybe people made up stories and blamed witches for the fire. During break time, Samantha was seen trying to get close to Clara, but as she approached her desk, some bad girls suddenly interrupted her. Then these 3 girls put a scrap of newspaper written the murder news of the perpetrator called the Christmas Killer, who has committed 3 murder cases recently. Then one of the girls said that the perpetrator always did the same thing, which was to target religiously observant couples, then slaughter them and make symbols like those used when starting a ritual. A moment later, Samantha asked about the symbol on the person's picture. The girl replied that the symbol was probably related to a sect or group of devil worshippers. Here, the girls looked happy, because on that day, they would return back to their homes, which were outside the city. Here, they also insult the Clara, which is considered strange and mysterious, because every winter, surely the students go home on vacation to their homes, while Clara was always here and never went home to meet her family. Hearing what they said, Clara became angry, but she preferred to leave them. A moment later, the girls' conversation was interrupted because the principal came and took the piece of newspaper, and the principal asked them not to read inappropriate news like this. The principal also asked them where they got the newspaper cuttings from. Then the girl answered she got it from Mrs. Rose's boyfriend. Because of this, the principal also asked Rose to talk to her boyfriend. And after teaching, Teacher Rose immediately met her boyfriend named Jimmy. Jimmy was the chef in this dormitory. Here Rose reprimanded him about the newspaper cuttings because she was reprimanded by the principal for this incident. But Jimmy argued that it was the bad students who took the newspaper from him. Later that afternoon, Samantha, who was packing her stuff to go back home, was called by the principal. It turned out that Samantha had gotten a call from her father, who couldn't take her home for Christmas this year. Samantha, who is sad, intends to calm herself down in the dormitory restroom, but when she gets to the restroom, she catches Clara hurting herself. In the evening, exactly 2 nights before Christmas, Jude's group was seen in a church. There, they were holding a priest as hostage in the church, and in this priest's stomach, they found the symbol. Then Jude skinned his stomach and carried the pieces of skin, until finally they killed the priest. In the morning, Clara woke up as if she saw the murder. On that day, all the students had gone home for their Christmas vacation with their families. Only Samantha and Clara stayed in the dormitory, accompanied by Mrs. Rose. Then the scene changed, with Jude's group being shown on the road. Then in the car, Doug felt jealous when he saw Maisie and Jude, who were making out behind him. Then suddenly he accidentally hit a deer that was crossing. They got out to check it out. While they were getting rid of the deer, suddenly a policeman came and asked them. But while they were chatting, the policeman saw something on the road, and it turned out to be the piece of skin from the priest they had previously taken. But before the policeman could ask, Grant hit him on the head from behind. Out of reflex, the policeman opened fire and the bullet hit Doug. After that, Jude took the policeman's gun and shot him dead. At the same time, Clara woke up. She saw what had just happened. Long story short, While Clara and Samantha were preparing dinner, someone knocked on the dormitory door. At first, Rose thought it was her boyfriend, Jimmy. But when Rose opened the door, it turned out that it was Jude's entourage. Here, they asked permission to enter the dormitory, so they could treat one of their injured friends. But Rose didn't allow strangers to enter the dormitory, and Rose asked them to go outside. Later, Rose would call an ambulance for them. Then, suddenly Maisie interrupted their conversation by saying that she used to be an alumnus of this school. Maisie then said the slogan of the school, her Blackfield girls must take care of each other. When there are alumni who are in trouble, this school doesn't want to help. Hearing that, Rose finally allowed them to go inside. Long story short, that night Rose began to treat Doug's wounds. On the other hand, Maisie said that Clara was familiar to her. She also asked if Clara had relatives who had also attended school here. Then the Doug brings up the incident when they were committing the previous murder. Hearing this, Samantha, who realized what they were saying, started to get scared. And here Rose immediately asked them to leave from there, because she couldn't let strangers spend the night in this dormitory. Then their true nature finally came out. Here, Rose threatened them with the scissors she had been holding, then told Samantha and Clara to go hide. After that, Jude immediately told Doug to catch them. Long story short, Samantha and Clara hid in the classroom, followed by Doug, who was looking for them. Samantha tried to attack Doug, but the difference in their strength was too much, and finally Doug could catch Samantha. Meanwhile, Clara picks up Doug's dropped knife, and she intends to help Samantha. Doug threatens to kill Samantha if Clara doesn't hand over the knife. Then at the same time, Jimmy, or Rose's boyfriend, is seen returning to the dormitory after taking the other students to the train station. Here he is surprised to see a car parked in the courtyard of the dormitory. Rose, who saw Jimmy's arrival, tried to call him from the window, but unfortunately before Rose could warn him, Grant had already beaten Jimmy from behind. Not long after, Jude also could find Rose, and finally she was also arrested. Then they were gathered at the dining table in a tied condition. The four psychopaths then pray with mockery before enjoying their dinner. Then here Jude asks Rose to enjoy this dinner, but with inappropriate treatment. This made Rose's fear turn into anger. Rose said that she knew they were the ones called the Christmas Killer. Jude then unties Jimmy and takes out the ring that he found from his pocket. It turns out that it is known that the plan on this Christmas Eve, Jimmy wants to propose Rose. Then Jude forced Jimmy to propose Rose at that moment, but Jimmy instead attacked Jude, which made Jude immediately kill Jimmy. After that, Jude put the ring on Rose's finger. Then Rose, Samantha, and Clara were taken to the living room. There, the psychopaths opened the Christmas presents that Rose had prepared for the two students. When they find out Samantha's gift is a sweater, then Jude forces her to change her clothes in front all of them. But strangely, Clara smiles and shows no fear at all. After that, the group began to prepare a ritual to summon the devil. They placed the pieces of skin they had collected in the center of a circle made using the blood of the victim. Jude later revealed that he was the son of a preacher who used to see people praying and asking God. But during that time, he never saw a single answered prayer. It's just that Jude still believes God exists. But according to him, God will grant prayers if there is a sacrifice, as is usually done to the gods or demons. Jude's explanation was then continued by Maisie, who told that when she was a student at this school. At that time, she found a magic book in the basement, but that action also made her got expelled from school. But before leaving this dormitory, she had taken one of the pages from the book, which contained a demon summoning ritual, and it was that piece of paper that led them to commit all the murders so far, and it was actually their intention to go to this dormitory and complete the ritual immediately. They believe the summoned demon, with the life as an offering, will give them whatever they want, such as wealth, popularity, and even power. So to complete this ritual, they need the blood of innocent people. But unbeknownst to them, Rose secretly used her ring to cut the duct tape tied around her hands. Then Rose surprisingly attacked Jude, but Jude quickly retaliated. Then he dragged Rose to the center of the blood circle. While casting a demon summoning spell, Jude stabbed Rose right in the heart, which made Rose die instantly. But after that, nothing happened. It also made them think, whether this demon was really real or they made a mistake during the ritual. Here Doug even assumes that all this time they have been killing only for something that doesn't actually exist. Therefore, Maisie and Jude intend to look for the spell book in the basement, because there might be something they missed in this ritual. After they both left, Clara, who had been silent since the incident, finally asked Doug about what he wanted from the demon. Here Doug expressed his skepticism about the ritual they performed. Actually, he doesn't believe that this ritual will really succeed in summoning the demon who can grant their requests. Doug also revealed that he was willing to do all this just because he wanted to get Maisie. After that, Doug planned to go around for a while to look for drinks. Then Samantha said that there was alcohol storage in the basement. Doug immediately left and asked Grant to look after the two girls. Meanwhile, in the basement, Maisie managed to find the magic book she was looking for. Maisie also tried to understand the book again. On the other hand, Grant, who was on guard alone, Clara began to approach him and began to influence Grant's mind. It turns out that here Clara can also find out that Grant used to be a soldier. Then Clara whispered a spell that sound, "Hell is waiting for you." It turns out that the words were also heard by Maisie and Jude, who were in the basement. After saying that spell, Clara also showed a strange symbol on her stomach, and she forced Grant to touch the symbol. A moment later, Doug comes over to Maisie. While Maisie is checking her book, she also finds something missing from the ritual, that is the blood of the guilty person. On the other hand, Clara immediately tells Samantha to get out from here, before the psychopath's back. But Samantha refuses because she doesn't want to leave Clara alone. Clara reassured her that if she didn't leave, she would die. Finally, Samantha reluctantly agrees to Clara's request, then she goes. Here I've seen that Grant has become Clara's subordinate somehow. When Samantha had left, Clara took a jar of blood, then smeared it on Grant's forehead while saying death had marked him. Then Clara offered immortality to Grant on condition he had to follow all her orders. In the basement, Maisie realized the fatal mistake they had made in this ritual. That's because on the next page of the book, it was written that the ritual they performed was not to summon a demon, but a ritual to free the demon trapped in the school, and the demon was Clara. On the other hand, Jude is seen looking for a demon that he believes must have risen and is around the school. Then when he finds a mirror, Jude confidently assumes that the demon has merged with himself. He also began to hurt himself, as if the demon's power was already in his body. Meanwhile, Maisie, accompanied by Doug, opens the yearbook of her class. Then she found Clara's photo there. Feeling something strange, Maisie immediately invited Doug to check the photos of the students who had lived in the dormitory. And sure enough, they found Clara's photo in every different generation. This is why the first time Maisie saw Clara, Maisie felt familiar with her face. Realizing this, Maisie immediately invited Doug to leave this place immediately. Then suddenly Jude appeared to stop them. Here Doug tries to explain to Jude that the possibility of Clara is the figure of the real demon. However, here Jude doesn't believe it, because according to him, he feels he is the real devil. There was a bit of an argument between them, which led Doug to attack Jude. Then not long after, Grant arrives and throws Jude straight away. Seeing the strange symbol on Grant's forehead frightens Maisie, and she is finally caught by Grant. On the other hand, Samantha is seen running in the middle of a snowstorm, and she could get into the guard post. Without wasting any time, Samantha immediately called the police for help, and the police suggested that Samantha stay hiding in the guard post until they arrived. But Samantha was still worried about Clara, so she decided to go back to the dormitory to save Clara. Back inside the dormitory, seen Jude and his entourage already tied up at the dining table, except for Grant, who Clara has chosen to be her subordinate. In essence, it is known that Clara is a demon figure who is also the perpetrator of the big fire, which Rose explained at the beginning of the story earlier, and it is now trapped in Clara's body. To get free, the demon also incites Maisie to do what is written on the sheet of paper that she found in the basement when she was still a student here. Clara goes on to explain that what they're all doing is part of a plan to resurrect her. And there's one thing that's missing from the ritual they're performing, and that's the blood of the guilty. And sure enough, the blood mean is theirs own blood, these psychopaths, or the Christmas killer. Clara intends to kill them to complete the ritual she has been waiting for. But in here, Clara cannot kill them directly. They have to kill each other. Then Clara pointed out who would be sacrificed first, and she pointed at Maisie. Then Grant immediately approached her and cut Maisie's hair as an initial offering. The second turn was Grant, and then he immediately cut his own palm. And the next was Doug. When Grant approached, Doug interrupted and said he wanted to offer blood like Grant did. Then Grant stuck out Doug's hand and immediately cut off all 4 fingers. When it was Jude's turn, he also interrupted and demanded a reward for what they had done so far for his ritual. Jude was already greedy from the start. He also wanted power and popularity. But Clara says all his wishes have been granted. Soon, Jude would be the centerpiece of every newspaper in the world, and his name would be talked about for generations, but he was already dead. Clara then asked Grant to take one of Jude's ears. At the same time, Samantha enters the dormitory and finds the photos of Clara that Maisie had previously marked. Back to the psychopaths, after which Clara orders Grant to finish off Doug and Jude immediately. When Grant wanted to kill Maisie, Maisie persuaded Grant not to do it, and she invited Grant to get out of this place together. But Clara insisted that Grant immediately complete his mission, if he wanted to get immortality as Clara had promised before. Hearing the voices of women who were too noisy made Grant even more confused, and he ended up stabbing himself in the neck. This also killed Grant. Now, only Maisie is left, but a moment later, Samantha walked in with an axe. Here, she was very surprised by what she saw, then saying that she came to save Clara. Instantly, Maisie's bonds were untied, and she immediately took the opportunity to escape from there. But of course, Clara didn't let it happen and immediately chased Maisie. Here, Samantha tries to stop Clara. But Clara looks angry at Samantha because she's been waiting for this moment and the ritual almost worked. But Samantha messed it up. She's also upset because she told her to leave, but why is Samantha back here? Samantha said she couldn't leave Clara alone because these psychopaths would kill her, until Clara finally shows who she really is. Clara said she was sick of being stuck in the school for so long. Year after year, she spent with a sense of boredom. But here Samantha assures Clara that she genuinely considers her a friend, and she really cares about Clara. It turns out that these words touched Clara, and she began to calm down. Clara also says that if Samantha really cares about her, then let her be free. And when the door opened, Samantha unexpectedly turned to Maisie and stabbed her in the back with an axe. And finally, the ritual was complete. The question may arise as to why Samantha killed Maisie. As explained earlier in this ritual, Clara cannot kill her victims directly. Her victims must kill themselves or go through an intermediary. In this ritual, the intermediary is Samantha, who helps Clara to complete her last ritual. Now, Clara could leave the dormitory that had trapped her. Outside, Samantha asks what Clara will do now. Will she go far away from here? Then Clara offers to see if Samantha wants to come with her. And soon as usual, the police arrive only after the incident is over. And with that, the movie ends.